Yokoso o ashitare. Welcome once more to our little Japanese story time. It's a little cold, so that's why I'm wearing my jacket. And I would rather not pay as high of an electricity bill this month just because I like saving money. So you get jacket me today. Anyway, a little bit of introduction here. This is part 2 of story number 6 in scroll number 24 of the Konjaku Monogatari Shu. Now, as far as who are we dealing with here, who are the characters, what's their name, I'm just going to point you to the previous video that I just did a week ago because it explains a bunch of things in there. It explains who Kanren is, who the main character is. It explains why he's well known and famous in the world of ancient Japan. And it explains what Go is to a small degree. But suffice to say, if you have a lot of questions after this video, please watch that one because that one will have more information. And also, if you like ancient Japanese culture, you like ancient Japanese literature, and you just like ancient Japanese history, feel free to like this video as well. But let's get into the actual story now. So once upon a time, there was a Buddhist priest by the name of Kanren. Again, please see the previous video about him stealing a pillow from the emperor to get more information. But one day, this priest, Kanren, was doing his usual thing of coming home from hanging out with the emperor. And he was on his way to Ninnaji. I mispronounced it in the previous video of Ninwaji because that's what I assumed its pronunciation would be, but apparently that's incorrect because, again, classical Japanese is just weird. But he was on his way home to Ninnaji, and he was just coming out of the palace grounds and heading along the street of Ichijo, which is the street that runs east-west that is closest to the palace grounds while not being in the palace. And as he's passing by a house, suddenly, from inside the premises, again, of this house that they're passing by, this young page girl suddenly shows up wearing a not super fancy, not the highest class kimono, but a really nice looking, fresh looking kimono. A kimono that suggests that she wasn't a servant of one of the major houses around, but whoever was employing her knew how to dress their servants very well. But this young girl comes out and looks over to one of Kanren's young page boys, one of his servants, and she calls him over to her. And now Kanren sees this young kid of his go over to this girl to see what she wants. Why is she calling him over? And he thinks this is a little weird, like he's passed by this house before and nothing like this has ever happened, so what's going on? And this kid talks to this girl for a little bit, and he comes back to the retinue, I guess, of Kanren, and he explains to his boss, essentially, "Sir, this young girl says that her master would like a word with you, and she's begging you, please, for even just a brief moment, come and seat yourself in my halls." Now, of course, Kanren hears this, and he thinks, that's even weirder. Whoever is this page girl's boss wants to talk to me? What about? I don't know this house. I don't know anybody who lives here. What's going on? But maybe because it was a weekday, maybe because Kanren had just gotten done with work and he was going on for a long, nice vacation. I don't know why. But he decided to humor whoever this girl's boss was. And so he told his retinue, "Hey, take me to the house." And as they're entering into the house, they go through the gate and they cross the fence, and immediately Kanren notices that this is a nice house. It's not the fanciest house, it's not the biggest house, it's not the most lavishly decorated house. It's a little bit on the DL. It's obviously a big house, like obviously this is the capital. This is the capital, and it's the capital right next to the palace grounds, so this is obviously a noble person of some station. But it's not the richest house. But despite that, everything was put together so nicely. Things were organized just right. The cypress fence out in front had a really clean-cut, well put together kind of a feel. The garden in the front lawn was clearly taken care of beautifully. Again, didn't have the most colorful flowers, but they were well kept, well tended to, well designed. And everything about this house just seemed to scream that whoever lived here really knew how to set everything up despite not having the most money. And after they enter into the grounds of this little estate, the young page girl motions to Kanren, "Please, sir, over here." And she leads him over to this building called a Hanachi-ide, which I did mention in a previous video about ancient Japanese ghosts that are not really ghosts but are attracted to music, but please watch that video too. This is just going to end up being one big cyclopedia reference of just point to this, go to here, go to here, go to here, anyway. But anyway, this young girl motions and has Kanren come up into this little Hanachi-ide building, and he's hanging out in kind of the veranda, because you had the main building, and then surrounding that was this roofed aisle, I guess you could say. And so Kanren goes up the steps into this Hanachi-ide building, and he's hanging out just outside the main actual building in kind of like the awning. I guess that's what the term is, an awning. Forgive me, I'm not super familiar with architecture. I'm just a nerd who really likes old Japanese way too much. way more than is good for him. But as he's coming up into this building and he's in the little awning area, he notices that separating the awning from like the main building part of it are some really well made, clean, well put together white blinds or curtains. They're kind of this hanging curtains, but these blinds, they're made mostly out of bamboo or straw, I believe is what it is, or reeds, bamboo or reeds. They're kind of like the ancient Japanese version of one-way glass in that they were built in such a way that it was really easy to see through them from one side, but much harder to see them from another side. So Kanren comes up and he's immediately greeted by these white bamboo curtains, and he notices right next to the curtains there is a go board, and it is polished to a sheen. It's shining because these are usually made out of wood, but it was treated and polished so well that it was absolutely shining. And just atop of this go board were some containers that contained the little stones that you need to play the game. And then while the board was placed just right up next to these white blinds, there was also one small circular cushion, clearly intended for somebody to sit there and set up to play an actual game of Go. But Kanren, seeing this and being a man of good manners and understanding the general way you're supposed to handle these things, he didn't immediately go to the seat that was very clearly prepared for him. He sat off to the side. He's just marveling again at all of this because this is so strange, but it's very pleasant. Everything is put together nicely. Clearly somebody wants to challenge him to a game of Go, which he absolutely loves, and it's just a pleasant surprise. Wow, this is amazing. I wonder what's going on and who is here. Weird, but in a good way. So as Kanren is sitting there, he suddenly hears a voice from the other side of the blinds. A soft but beautiful sounding feminine voice. And this woman simply says to him, "Please, sir, come closer. I have something I wish to say to you." And Kanren goes, "Whoa, was not expecting this of all things." So he does. He comes a little bit closer to the blinds. And this woman then begins telling him, "I have heard, sir, that you are unrivaled in the skills of Go. Your reputation precedes you, and I would like to see this for myself. You see, when I was young, my father saw in me some potential to be a really skilled player at this game myself. And so, fittingly, he taught me a few things here and there. But unfortunately, he passed away, and ever since then I have had nary a chance to actually try my skills with anybody, let alone somebody as esteemed and famous as you, good sir. And then, lo and behold, I heard that you were passing by just outside this house, and though it is beyond my station to dare to ask somebody so esteemed as you, I couldn't pass up the opportunity, and so I decided to invite you to a game or two." And again, Kanren hears all of this and just instantly starts thinking, whoa, this is new. This is really cool. Like, I don't know who this lady is, but clearly she's got some class and she likes playing Go. And it's my day off. I guess that's what it is. The story doesn't say that, but I'm just assuming that's what it is. But he thought, this sounds like a really good idea. And so he says to this lady, again, whom he cannot see because she's on the other side of the blinds, but she can see him, which was custom at the time. Women were not supposed to be seen by other men. But Kanren decides, well, my good madam, my good lady, my good whatever, he's being very polite here. I would love to show you my skill in a game or two. Let's play. And at this point, Kanren then takes the seat that was clearly set out for him next to the board, so he's playing. So we've got Kanren sitting on one side of the board, and then on the other side is this blind, these white bamboo blinds. And on the other side of the blinds, this woman is sitting. And as soon as Kanren sits down, not only is he just very pleasantly enjoying the view of everything, how everything is so nice, but he also notices this faint smell of incense wafting through the blinds. Again, everything about this is just, it's like picture book perfect. It's a storybook perfect of how awesome this actually is. And so, as per usual, Kanren goes over to the little container of Go rocks, whatever, Go stones. He takes off the lid and he takes out 2 stones. He gives one to himself, and then he takes the other one and he slides it under through the blinds. Because obviously, if he's playing with her, she's going to be the one to place the stone. That's what you normally do. But she immediately slides it back to him and says, "Oh no, sir, please take both of these stones, because in keeping with our culture," and she doesn't say in keeping with our culture, but in keeping with the culture, "it would be too embarrassing for me to roll up these blinds and place the stones myself. No, because that would expose me, and it's too embarrassing to do that. I can't afford to do that. It's not proper for a lady of my station to do anything like that. So please, if you would be so kind, place the stones down on the board for both me and yourself." And again, Kanren is like, wow, for a game of Go, you don't need to worry about decorum. we're just playing a game. This lady is so cultured and raised in such a proper manner that even in a casual game of Go, she is not going to avail herself of this time to make it easier for herself and expose herself to an unrelated man. No. This woman is far too classy for that, because that was the definition of classy in ancient Japan. And so, being even more amazed, Kanren just decides, well, I guess I'll just take this woman at her word. Let us begin then, shall we? And he takes his stone and he places it on the board in a strategic manner. And the whole time, again, he's just thinking once more how absolutely stunning this whole thing is. Everything about this is just absolutely dripping with sensibility and delicate taste and class. Like, this is so cool. And Kanren would know, because the story then here does mention the fact that Kanren, one of the reasons why he was such a favored opponent of the emperor, is because he understood aesthetic sensibilities better than just about anybody else around. Not only was he a Buddhist priest, and that comes with some of its own benefits and some of its own status and whatnot, but he was so educated in art, poetry, and all the finer things in life. In other words, he knew fine dining. And even he was just almost beside himself with just how classy, again, I don't know any other words than to describe it, but just how brilliant this whole thing was. This was absolutely amazing. Again, it was like something written straight out of poetry. Like, this was almost not real. But after Kanren puts down his first stone, this woman, then, she's got to now indicate to Kanren some way of where she wants the stones put. And so, from this little slit in the blinds, she extends her hand and she's holding this 2-foot-long white stick, essentially, is what it is. And I don't remember exactly what it was used for, but it's almost like a prayer stick. It had a significance beyond being just a stick. And it was this sheer white, well-crafted tool, essentially, is what it was. And she used this with her feminine, graceful hand to delicately point on the board where she wanted her stones to be placed, which again just shows the devotion this woman had to upholding the highest standards of cultural etiquette. Like, this woman was on another level. And so now finally the game begins. Now, the first thing that Kanren thinks is, this whole thing is so amazing, I best not underestimate this woman. She seems to know what she's doing. And therefore, his first few stones, he places in a very strategic way, not going in for the kill, but not backing up. He's playing very carefully and very intelligently. Like, he is not going to underestimate this woman at all. I wish, however, I could explain a little bit more in detail how it works, but I'm not an expert at Go. Heck, I don't even know how to play the silly thing. So a lot of this part of the story is a little bit lost on me, and some of it's actually missing because it's old Japanese, and whatever the original sources are, either they've been lost to time, or people wrote things incorrectly, or just wear and tear on the original pages or whatever. So I can't really explain in detail what's going on, but as they're playing and the game is going on, it soon becomes very apparent that this woman is not only deserving of praise for her aesthetic capabilities, but she's also really, really good at this game. And it doesn't actually take long before she has Kanren backed into a corner and destroys him. Specifically, the term that they use is minagoroshi. Mina meaning everything or everyone, all the things, referring specifically to his stones. And goroshi means slayed, killed. He absolutely gets slaughtered by this woman in this game. Like, it's not even a contest. Destroyed completely. Utterly defeated. And once this happened, something flipped in Kanren's head, and he started to wonder, whoa, hold on a second. This is really weird now that I think about it. I mean, even if this woman is really good at what she does, like, and fair to her, she is really good, to absolutely destroy me, I'm one of the best people in the entire country at this game. To destroy me like I'm a child who's just first learning how to play this game. Bro, there's something wrong here. And then he started thinking about how perfect everything was. Everything was absolutely perfect. And again, that just added to his suspicion. Whoa, something's going on here. This doesn't seem right. Is this woman even a woman? Or is she some sort of henge, is what he asks, which is a spirit, something that can change shape, maybe a fox that has become a human, or some kind of supernatural being that's trying to catch him unawares. Because again, Kanren was no pushover at this game. Kanren was the best of the best. And this woman whom nobody had heard of, ever, suddenly just wiped the floor with him like this. No. Something's off here. And once this game was finished, this woman from behind the blinds just quietly laughs to herself. You know, a dainty, feminine laugh that had a little ominous ring to it. And all she said was, "Another one, shall we?" And there was something about this that just threw Kanren off. He was like, oh no, something is wrong, and if I speak any more to this woman, I'm gonna get it. Something bad is going to happen. And immediately, without saying another word, he got up and he ran. He just tore out of there as fast as he could. Didn't even put his shoes on, because he was like, no, there's something afoot here. And he just tore off right out of there. And he hopped into his carriage, he had everybody drive off, and they went straight to the temple that he was originally headed for. Boom, straight there. And once they arrive, Kanren, gets out, and he's out and about, hanging out in the temple as usual. And what's also interesting to mention here is there was a retired emperor, or I believe it's a retired emperor who was also there, who was also friendly with Kanren. But usually if an emperor retired, oftentimes they would go into Buddhist clergy life. They would don the cloth, as it were. And so Kanren comes into the temple, and he runs into the retired emperor, and he explains the whole situation. I went to this house, I played Go with this woman, and everything was perfect and everything was crazy and awesome until I got my butt handed to me like I've never had it handed to me before. Me, the best in the country, the best around. I don't know who this woman was, but I got the distinct impression that things were not as they seemed. Things were not right. And then the retired emperor hears this, and he also is marveling at this. Whoa, that's weird. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We got to figure out what's going on here. And so the next morning, the emperor sends a retinue to go investigate, go to this house. And this little retinue shows up at the house. And they do the normal thing. They introduce themselves, they come to the house, and they look around and they can't find a single person. Not one. Nobody. Except for one solitary nun who looks like she's about to die, she's so old. And the retinue then asks her, "Good woman, we have some questions for you if you wouldn't mind answering them. Yesterday, was there somebody here who was staying at your residence? What happened to them?" And this old nun tells them simply, "Well, there was somebody here. I don't know who they were, but because of an unlucky direction, they decided to take up residence here for 5 or 6 days." Now, in case you guys are wondering, what would happen is the ancient Japanese believed that depending on the positions of the stars and the cardinal directions and whatnot, it was bad to go off in certain directions. It was unlucky. And so a lot of times, if people were trying to get to a place, but it turns out that the stars deemed that direction was bad, they would instead take up residence at some random person's house in the opposite direction or in another direction that wasn't ill-fated, and they would stay there for a few days until the stars declared that it was fine to go in the direction they originally wanted to go. So this woman then explains, yes, there was somebody here who took up residence in an attempt to avoid any bad omened directions. And they stayed here for about 5 or 6 days. However, suddenly in the middle of the night yesterday, they all just packed up and left out of nowhere without saying a word. And the servants of the retired emperor questioned her a little bit further. "Do you know the name of this person? And do you know where they live?" And this old nun just said simply, "I honestly have no idea. My guess is that it's some relation, friend, or acquaintance of the owner of this house, but the owner of this house isn't here. They're currently in the province of Tsukushi, which is nowhere near the capital." And the servant of the retired emperor seemed to realize that, this woman really didn't have a lot of useful information to give. So you know what? He was just going to drop the subject and go report back to the emperor that they have no idea who this woman was, who she is, where she went, where she's from, and what was going on here. And word of this whole event spread abroad, spread all over the capital, and people began to murmur and whisper and talk. But even after spreading abroad, nobody knows who this woman was. Nobody knows where she went or who she could possibly be. Like who could destroy Kanren like this? Nobody can. He's the best. There is nobody out there like him. And if there was, we would have heard about it. We would know. But this woman just vanished into the ether, completely gone. Nobody has any idea. And thus is it said that this rumor was spread abroad all over the country in those days. Whew. Okay, that was a little bit of a longer one, but it's a really interesting story. And I do want to address one thing. Now, some people may wonder, was Kanren actually facing some sort of spirit or fox demon creature that was outdoing him because of supernatural abilities? Maybe he was just a man who got defeated by a woman, and because of his wounded pride, he said, nope, definitely not a real person. It's got to be a spirit. The only person who could possibly beat me is a spirit, let alone a woman beat me, heaven forbid. But I do want to point out that in this story, there doesn't seem to be any of that. Kanren is not amazed that a woman beat him. And he's not even amazed that somebody beat him. Because, there are hidden gems. There are people with unaccounted for skills all over the place. That's not new here. What is new is that this woman was completely unheard of and destroyed him. Like it was so one-sided. Absolutely wrecked. That's what surprised him. That's what made him question everything. And it was from that he also started paying attention to everything else going on around. Like, this is too perfect. Everything about this woman is too perfect to be a normal human. And again, Kanren knows these things. He's very educated in what to expect from other nobility. And yet, he was terrified of this whole thing. Now, there is always the potentiality that this woman was real and that she was a woman and she was just really good. Women played Go. That's one of the things they did because they didn't actually have a lot to look forward to. Again, they weren't allowed to be seen by other people outside of their relations, so they weren't allowed to go outside a lot. So they ended up playing board games a bunch. So it's not crazy to think that there were women who were really, really good at this game. And because women tended to not be in the public eye for cultural reasons, it makes sense that there likely were some women who were super, super good at this game and probably could have even challenged Kanren. But again, to absolutely crush him like this, that's a little strange. But anyway, whatever you guys decide, that's your business. Again, that's one of the nice things about stories like this is we can speculate, and who doesn't like speculating? Nerds like me have been doing that since the dawn of time. Who can beat whom? Can Superman beat Goku? Who's the strongest of all the major shonen anime protagonists? What would happen if Mario got a hold of the Chaos Emeralds? You know, fun stuff like that. And so, please, do some speculating down in the comments. I mean, that's what the comments are there for. But also, that's gonna be it. I thank you for sticking through the whole thing with me. Ito katejike no kosoha beri kere. So please, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to share it far and wide with all of your weeb friends especially. Please subscribe if you want to keep abreast of everything that I'm doing here. And just want to say I appreciate it one more time. And hopefully we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.